Welcome back to Session 8 of our Leadership Unleashed Masterclass. You can't be biased against your family. Let me start with this statement. I believe in nepotism. Now let's pause, let's take a break, and let me give you a little commercial break. There's a lot of other things that I've written besides Leadership Unleashed. I've written 3 other books. I've written Human Right, Leveraging Tension, and Shake Your Ashes Off. All of those are available at Amazon or on barnesandnoble.com. Get a copy to get more of the content that I produce. Okay, commercial over. Back to our subject. I believe in nepotism. Now, I'm not talking about nepotism that gives people positions that are unfair. I'm talking about pure nepotism where you're unbiased against your family. Are biased against your family. I think there's a lot of people today that if you carry the same last name, they overlook you because you have the same last name. I personally believe if someone has the gift, the calling, and the ability, the last name should not be a determination against you. When my wife and I, Mary, started our church, Church Unleashed, on Long Island back in 2008, it was just her and I. We were the vision carriers. We were the financial people. We were the ones who emptied our life savings. We were the ones who left our jobs in order to start this church. We sacrificed, we gave, we contributed, and yet so often there's been people that, well, why is your wife a pastor at the church? Because she's a pastor at the church. She's a pastor at the church because she's earned that right, not because it was just freely given to her. True nepotism, when you think of the positive side of it, you have to think of the Bible. The Bible? What does the Bible have to say about nepotism? It says a lot about nepotism. In fact, think about God himself. God himself chose to carry out his mission on planet Earth through who? His son, Jesus Christ. In today's world, most people would freak out, step back, and say, that's nepotism. And they would have overlooked the salvation that would come from Jesus. Now, think about your world that you live in, whether you're working at as a barista, whether you're in the medical profession, whether you're an entrepreneur, most people will steer you clear of your family because of the way it would look. Here's what I want to tell you to do as a leader. Forget about what it looks like. Do the right thing. And if someone has earned that, don't let anybody put a label on you of nepotism or you're being unfair or you're giving them preferential treatment. Listen, the reality is I have 3 kids. And the father will always favor his children more. That's just the truth. But I've got to make sure as a leader, I don't give my kids favor that belongs at home in the work environment. See, you can't be biased against your family. That means you have to look at your family through the lens of their capacity, their ability, their skill and talent. And if they have the ability to do the job, they should not be overlooked just because they carry the same last name. Now, this is going to fly in the face of many leadership gurus in the world today because they say, well, you got to watch appearance. The reality is when you watch appearance, the Bible calls that living to please men. We're not called as leaders to please men. We're called to please God. The right decision or the right person should be irrelevant to the last name. If the person's the right person, whether they have your name or not, they should be the person that's given that opportunity. Now, my son Malachi, he now, as of the time of this video, he's 18 years old. He now works at our church. He works at our church. He's a tech director. He does a lot of our video production. He oversees lighting. He oversees the sound. He oversees all that stuff for a Sunday experience, but also digital marketing and media. He's working alongside our team on that. When you think about that, it could be easy to say, well, you just hired your son. No, he has the skill set and the ability and the talent to do it. So it just makes sense to me. Now, A lot of people on the outside could look at that and say, that's great. Well, I hope to hire my daughters one day too. I hope that they have an opportunity to be able to work alongside me, because what we get to do is the greatest mission on the planet. It's to tell others about the life-changing power of Jesus Christ. Now, when you look in the Old Testament, kings and Levites, the priestly tribe, all passed down from family line. How is it somewhere along the way we ignored the family calling that God puts, the anointing God puts on a family for certain things, and doing those things well? And we say, well, no, you can't do that because they carry the same last name. You can't be biased against your family. Now, that does not mean that you should put an unfit person in a position to lead. I'm just trying to say in this masterclass session that you can't be biased against them. You've got to make sure that they, you do your due diligence on whether they have the capacity to do the job, that they have the talent to do it, but you cannot overlook them just because they carry the same last name. And in our world today, especially in American culture, where we are driven by small businesses drive our, the economy of America. And most small businesses, they're led by families. The local bagel store that I go to weekly in our hometown on Long Island, it's a family business. When you look at all that, you've got to say, well, how come we don't think less of the bagel company? But if you're in corporate world, well, that's because what we've done is we said the higher success you get, the more scrutiny you get. And so when you get more successful, you're more scrutinized. But the rules shouldn't change whether you're $1 million company versus a $100 million company when it comes to your family. You cannot overlook your family just because they have the same last name. So if they are qualified and they are fit for a position that's available, you ought to make sure that you don't ignore them. Here's why this matters. If you ignore your family because of the last name for an opportunity that might be in your organization, I promise you, your family will ignore you. They will say, why didn't you even consider me? You'll create an opportunity for bitterness in your family. Now, I'd rather have bitterness at work than bitterness in my home. I'd rather have people outside my home upset at me because I did the right thing than people in my home upset at me because I did the wrong thing. When you are biased against your family, what you are saying to your family is, I am going to be negatively preferential to other people. I'm going to give them a better scope, a better opportunity than I would even give to you. Now, in my opinion, that's the wrong side of the coin that leaders should be on. When you think about your family, when you think about your business, your organization, even your church, I think family should be someone that we should look at for positions within our organizations. Here's why. Because they're probably very faithful. They're probably very loyal, and they truly want to see you excel. I think of my wife, Mary. There's nobody greater in our church that encourages me, motivates me, but also corrects me than my wife. Why? She loves me the most. She cares for me the most. So when my wife corrects me, it's not because she has something against me. It's really because she has something for me, a love and a passion that those outside that relationship could not understand. So when she's given me direction, that's not nepotism, that's actually wisdom. And wisdom, when used rightly, produces in our lives, for our lives, and through our lives, something powerful. I know my family's got my back. I better have their back when there's an opportunity in my organization to be able to take them higher or push them further. You can't be biased against your family. I want to just repeat it. You can't be biased against your family. I believe in nepotism. I believe in elevating your family because they are going to be the most loyal, consistent people. Now, I know some people would say, well, that's not always the case, and that's true. There are some families that are dysfunctional, but when you have a functional family, family's the most loyal, consistent, considerate, corrective group of people that leaders need today. And many times, let me say this, A lot of leaders do not want their family with them because they want to be something else at work than they are at home. But when your family works with you and they're alongside you, you can't fake it. You can't be one thing at home, one thing at work, one thing with your family, one thing with your friends. When you're together all the time, they see the real you. In fact, I believe having your family work for you is a lot tougher than not having them work for you. Because they, hey, you didn't mean that. You shouldn't have done that. You shouldn't have said it, because then it becomes dinner conversations. You have conversations over dinner or breakfast about your business, your nonprofit, your church, your organization. Don't be biased against your family because it's going to be more challenging. Don't be biased against your family because of appearance. Do the right thing. If your family member, whether it's a child, a spouse, maybe a distant relative, they are the most qualified for the job, give them an opportunity for the job, because I really think they might be the most loyal person in your company because you took a risk on them, because they had the capacity and the quality of work to get the job done. Never forget, you can't be biased against your family.